Whether it's the regular season or the offseason, we have you covered as we give you the best Tennessee Titans and NFL news and insight that a fan could ask for. You're watching the Titan Upload Network.
And I guess we're just not getting this thing going. So, Hi, Tyler. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, buddy. I know you've had better times.
Yeah, let's just go from there. So, you know what? The hell with it. We'll just vamp from there. Hope it was a good day for you. Hope everything rolled. So, unfortunately, we're getting things rolling in the right direction. But good seeing everybody on the show. We'll get everybody's chats in a minute, but of course, let's get this bad boy rolling. As of right now, Tyler, the Tennessee Titans are starting their OTAs and basically getting things revved up. So there's a lot to talk about, regardless of what everybody thinks about. So, have you seen any of the posts today? Looks like everybody's basically getting back in the rhythm of things and starting to get in football shape.
I've caught a couple of them. Today's been a little hectic. Had to take care of some things around the house and, of course, work today. But right before coming on, I was able to catch just a couple of posts. And, yeah, it looks like guys are there getting some work in. So you love to see it.
Definitely so. Will Levis and Nuke are really starting to get back in the rhythm, and cornerbacks are looking pretty good on that end. So, hey, I'm feeling the vibe, man. But I'll tell you what I definitely was feeling. And it kind of relates into our segment, so I guess this is a segue point. So let's just go from that point. So if anybody had a chance to listen to the Athletic Football Podcast, really good show, had a really good listen. I think it was this Friday. They had Coach Callie on there. So obviously, definitely wanted to dip in that. Definitely wanted to see what the buzz was all about. And I'll tell you, Tyler, it was a very intriguing listen. Very pleased with what the discussion points were. Very professional. And I'll definitely give a shout out to Robert Mace. The guy does phenomenal work and really just enjoyed it. Just a solid listen. So basically, this kind of just set up the whole narrative of what the Titans have been doing, what the expectations are, what Coach Callie is going to be doing in year one. So don't know if you've had a chance to listen to it or not, but, what was your takeaway if you have had a chance to listen to it?
Yeah, I did get a chance to listen to it. Was able to listen to it yesterday, actually, and I know I texted you about a couple of things in it, and I thought it was a great interview. Great job done on that, and, just getting to know Coach Callie a little bit more and see that personality even a little bit more, and hearing how he goes about things in the building, and even other things that factor into the head coaching job that you don't really think would factor into the head coaching job. But like you said, it's a great listen. If anyone in the chat hasn't listened to it yet, definitely go give it a listen, give it a watch. because it's just, I actually texted you about this. It's almost like a night and day difference between how he's kind of going about things right now and how things were running under Mike Vrabel. And that's not a shot at Mike Vrabel. He has his way of doing things, but, and Coach Callie has his way. But it's seeing the way that he's going about it definitely brings a different light to this team.
Yeah, I mean, it's a night and day comparison of the two, and you really just get that sense of excitement that it's a fresh new perspective, a fresh new mind, an offensive mind at that, where it's really going to just relate things to players. And it seems like an open door policy. He's really just reaching out to the guys and wants to know, what they're comfortable doing, what they feel is going to help elevate their skill set, and what their skill set basically is going to be strong suited to. So, really good points that he brought up in the podcast. And I just felt that, especially when you get into that kind of discussion, of course, now you get a little more excited, a little more just amped and that revigorated feeling. So it kind of starts up for our first topic tonight, Tyler. And I think this is a big one to talk about, especially since we're getting ready to start the OTAs. We're going to start seeing more of what Callie's going to put into play as we go through the process of getting to training camp and then eventually to preseason. But I think it's a good point to start at. And the best point to start at is, what do we feel that Brian Callahan's ceiling will be with the Tennessee Titans? So let's start out basic. We know his background. We know where he's worked. We know who he's worked with. We know all that kind of situational stuff. So, Tyler, basically, let's start with the first easiest question. Do we feel that this is finally the offense that's going to get the Tennessee Titans into the 21st century, football-wise?
It's definitely the offense, or the system, all of that's going to get the Titans offense to this more modern style. Like, from, like you said, you look at where all Brian Callahan has been, who he's worked with, things like that. Like, he's worked with some really good quarterbacks. And what do quarterbacks like to do? They don't just like to turn around and hand the ball off. He even mentions how in that interview we were talking about how Joe Burrow would come to him in Cincy and be like, hey, if y'all run the ball twice and then ask me to, make something happen with my arm on third down, that puts me in a tough spot. Like, and, him taking that into account. The system that he's going to bring here is not the old, just constantly run, pass, or we have to set up the pass game with the run game. Like, no, this is going to be, we're going to see this more modern offense from Coach Callie's team.
Now, of course, every situation comes, with pros and cons. And of course, we're going to discuss the con situation with Coach Callie as well, because, we're not trying to be biased here. We're not coming in this thing with rose-colored glasses. We know there's still things that have to be worked out, scheme-wise, culture-wise. It's a building process. But of course, the biggest concern I think most fans have, especially in the media sense, Tyler, is the play calling. Is Coach Callie ready to step up and handle that type of responsibility? Though he's had 5 years helping Zach Taylor basically build what they would do game plan wise throughout his tenure there, it's night and day in doing the very thing that he's going to have to start being in control over. And about 75% of the coaches in the NFL that are offensive minded basically call their own plays now. So is he ready for this challenge right now? And if he isn't, what do you feel is something he's going to have to do in order to get that experience?
So overall, I feel like he is ready for, for that. Because, like you said, although he wasn't calling plays in Cincinnati, one other thing he's mentioned is, he's even Zach Taylor, especially in certain situations, would ask his opinion in the game. Like, hey, what are you feeling here? What do you think we need to go with? And Coach Callie would tell him, and then they would run it. So, learning and studying that situation, even if he's not calling the plays at the time, he's still watching the game. He's still going back, watching the film, knowing what they've called, picking up on those things. And, granted, is it going to be a home run hit right away? Like, no, there's no guarantee that he's going to just hit the ground running with being the one calling the plays. But he's built this staff up around him to help him. He's taking in players' thoughts, what they're comfortable with, what they, like running, what they feel like in certain situations could be good plays to run. And he's taking all that knowledge in, and that's going to help him. And as far as getting more of that experience, that's kind of where a little bit the preseason can come in as well, even though, like we've talked about before, you're going to see basic stuff in the preseason. He still gets that chance to, get used to that role a little bit more of being the one to call the plays in.
Every head coach comes into a different situation. Some of them have to wait to get the quarterback that they need in order to make their offense work. Sometimes they inherit one. It's just always a mixed bag. I would have to say there's not a lot of coaches in this hiring cycle that ended up falling into a really good situation, from a standpoint where there was money available, where they potentially had a guy that you could build around. You potentially had an opportunity to add a staff in place that you've had experience with. And I mean, the Titans was a very, very interesting job, whether people want to admit it or not, from the media standpoint. But I'll put it to you this way, Tyler. I mean, compared to a lot of the hires right now, and especially with some of the guys the Titans discussed, I mean, how are you today with Brian Callahan running the show?
How I am today with Brian Callahan running the show is I feel confident. I feel confident that the Titans made the right pick for him being their next head coach. I feel like he can, like you mentioned, the Titans, they were a team that potentially has that quarterback of the future. They had money to spend so that you can bring in pieces around that quarterback and build this team up even more. And especially once you look at the entire coaching staff that he's put together, the Titans made the right choice here, in my opinion, is how I feel about it right now.
So, getting to the heart of the main question we're asking tonight in this segment, where do you feel Callie's ceiling is? From any kind of coach, or former or current, what do you think is his ceiling compared to some of the coaches in the game today, to coaches that have coached in the past? Where do you feel that he lands as a potential play caller and overall head coach? And of course, this just being a discussion point of, well, let's try and give a fair comparison to where we think he could be.
Right. And, I've kind of bounced around on this a little bit, and I definitely want to expand on my answer a little bit more because of the situation that Coach Callie is coming into.
Okay.
And, you look at, we've talked about Zach Taylor and how Brian Callahan, he's been with him, the last 5 years. He's talked about how he's learned a lot from Zach Taylor. But one of the things that him and Zach Taylor, because Zach Taylor became the Bengals head coach in 2019. Andy Dalton was still the quarterback of that team. Didn't really, Zach Taylor didn't really have his quarterback to build around. And then the next year they get Joe Burrow, but there's still a lot of pieces that they're missing. They weren't really able to build up that team. And given how Brian Callahan has talked about Zach Taylor, this is going to be kind of a basic answer. I know if people look at his overall record as a head coach, you're like, man, that's a ceiling. But I feel like Brian Callahan is, as far as what his ceiling could be, is what Zach Taylor has been the last 3 years after they've built this team up. Because overall, like I said, you look at Zach Taylor's overall record as a head coach. Yeah, the regular season, 37 wins, 44 losses, 1 tie. But the postseason record, 5-2. Had a Super Bowl appearance. Really, if Joe Burrow, if the line could have held up one more second, probably talking about Zach Taylor being a Super Bowl winning head coach. And I think that Brian Callahan is, while he's also making it his own, he's learned so much from Zach Taylor, and Zach Taylor's let him in on so many things. And like I said, the biggest difference is now Brian Callahan is coming into a team that potentially already has that quarterback of, their future. He come into a team that had a lot of money to spend to build up around that quarterback. And last year, of course, Burrow was hurt. Bengals finished 9-8. But if you look at their last 3 seasons, you're talking about a coaching record of 31-19, 31 wins, 19 losses. Like I said, going back to the 2021 season, that's the year that they made their Super Bowl run. So I think, like I said, the reason I wanted to preface that, what we've seen the last 3 years from Zach Taylor, I think that could be what Coach Callie puts together as a whole in his coaching tender.
And from my standpoint, I look at it from where he's been, where he's done his work at, who and which quarterbacks that he's had time to kind of just glean from the process. And, as we said, it's a ceiling debate. How far can he go? What do we feel he's going to hit? I see a guy that has basically worked, with Gary Kubiak, he's worked under Detroit's offense. He's worked under Oakland with John Gruden for a time. He's worked with Zach Taylor for the last 5 years. So there's a lot of pick and point processes to where he could have just evaluated his, mental preparation for having this job.
Mm-hmm.
I almost see it as kind of an Andy Reid-esque kind of just build up. Now, am I saying he's going to be Andy Reid? Not at all. I'm saying there's very characteristic traits of I feel that he can have an Andy Reid-esque type of buildup. Andy Reid, same process. Came from a lot of different scenarios, was with the Packers for a good bit before he got his first full-time job as a head coach under a very bright offensive-minded coach in Mike Holmgren. So I see that process there. It's just going to depend on what Callie does with the tools that he has at his disposal right now. And luckily, there's 3 character things that a team needs to be successful in this league, Tyler. And do you know what they are?
Fill me in on them.
You need the GM, you need the coach, and you need the quarterback. You need all 3 of those components to have a successful franchise. Tennessee may have that. And it's hard to say if it's a possibility if they do. Everything is going to be a wait and see scenario. Like we always say on the network, we'll wait and see. We'll let it play out. And I know, feelings and anxiety are up. Like, I'm tired of waiting and seeing. I don't have many more wait and see kind of years. It's just too much for me. I get it. But that's just what it is. I don't have a crystal ball for Brian Callahan. I don't know what his ceiling is 100%. I can only go off just what his experiences have been with different teams, with other coaches that he's worked with, and of course his tenure with the Bengals, which have given the Titans fits for the last few years.
Yeah.
So obviously that was very much worth the interview. And I can honestly say I'm grateful for the fact that Indy didn't throw their hat in the ring and go after him when they had the opportunity to bring him in last year. Because that could have been a huge problem, especially if he got to pick his quarterback that year.
True. Very true.
That could have been a whole different discussion. We potentially could have seen Will Levis go to Indy if he felt that strongly about him. Or they might have stuck with Anthony Richardson. We'll never know. Maybe that's another show we bring up for one day.
Don't tell Colts fans that, even though they wanted Levis at the time.
Maybe we stick that in our back pocket and just kind of just see what happens. We got stuff to talk about in the offseason. I'm just saying. All I'm saying for this segment is it's good when you set your coach up for success in the long-term run of things. And for a guy like Brian Callahan, having worked with different coaches, having had opportunities to see how different offenses work and utilize and how they're structured, and not to mention just being around his dad for a little bit, obviously not coaching or anything, but seeing how he carries himself and now finally getting the opportunity to work with him, that's a different perspective as well. So there's so many different things that Brian Callahan can bring into this opportunity and truly make it special and unique. I hope the ceiling's high for him. I hope, just like every other Titans fan watching this is saying that ceiling is somewhere that we have only dared to dream. Because sometimes dreaming is all we have. And at this point, at the last few years, it's kind of nice to dream about something positive because, damn it, we haven't had a lot of positive things to take away from the last 2 years other than the fact that run, pass, punt.
Yeah, and look, I'm going to say I would be ecstatic if, your dream of what the ceiling is for Brian Callahan comes to fruition. Like, that would be amazing. I would take your dream, like what you dream for his ceiling, over, where I guess I more realistically see his ceiling being. So, and that's just me personally right now. But yeah, I would take that dream.
I mean, I can dream very unrealistically at times, but at the same time, I'm just throwing out hope. Because I think that's all we've got right now. It's just hope the Titans finally have something on the right path that's going to, generate fruit. It's nice to have a coach that has a heavy offensive background. It's nice to have a quarterback that's genuinely excited and a different breed of animal that we've really seen. I mean, can we really say that we've had a quarterback with this much just moxie and just confidence and swag even? I mean, we can't.
No.
You would have to go back to, Aaron McNair days.
Yeah. I'm about to say that's where I was going to say you would have to go all the way back to McNair. But since then, as far as, a quarterback for the Titans carrying themselves we've had that gap between those two guys, and it feels good to have that back.
Regardless, though, I'm excited for the future, and I'm excited that football is nearly months away. So We just have to find filler in order to just get there. But regardless, Brian Callahan is definitely building his culture. He's getting his offense acclimated to what he wants to do and how he wants things run. He's getting his staff up to speed. Hopefully everything transpires in and on the right path. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick 30-second break. And when we come back, the schedule released last week, and we definitely had some ideas, but we picked out the best 5 games that we think are going to be the most intriguing. Unfortunately, spoiler alert, none of them are division games. And we'll explain why, because there's method to the madness. But hey, before we discuss that, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll talk more Titans, because that's what we do here on the Power Hour.
You're watching the Power Hour with your hosts, Michael Bishop and Tyler Stabs.
Keep winning. You can try to save yourself, but you only gon' play yourself. You can try to save yourself, but you only gon' play yourself.
The Power Hour's on the air, live streaming you on YouTube, Facebook, X, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and as always, thank you for joining us on this fine Monday evening. Guys, it is great to be back on YouTube. We apologize profusely for the situation at hand that unfolded. We had some technical difficulties that kind of kept us away from the YouTube crowd, and we had a really great show planned, and it just kind of unraveled, basically just like a ball of string. So we kind of had to go on Twitter, and unfortunately, we couldn't read any of your comments, so that kind of bummed us out. So here we are back where we belong on YouTube, on the Titan Upload Network, and of course, getting to your comments before we go any further. Great seeing everybody, and thank you for being patient with us. Shout out to Rossi for joining us as always. Rossi's been busy getting shorts ready and, of course, getting his show going for this week. So believe me, we got plenty of stuff to talk about as the week unfolds. What's up, Carlos? Shout out to Memphis as well. We love Memphis. You know, got to give love to Memphis. XD Gamer, what's up, buddy? We know you don't like us, but we love you, so it's all right. Titan Maximum, good seeing you, man. And I hope you're right. I mean, I hope this is a scenario where we're going to be seeing football just transpire into a game that we have only dared to dream to see with these Tennessee Titans. So it's really going to be kind of fun, exciting, a little nerve-wracking even. So we'll see how it goes. And yeah, as we said, McNair is probably that last guy that's kind of made that difference there. Eastside Herald 4.0, Texans Nation stand up. Well, I mean, it must be lonely standing up by yourself, but hey, you do you do. You do you, man. That's all good. Good having you there, though. Still need to grab a free agent safety. And yeah, we actually talked about that, I think, maybe a week ago, Tyler. So nothing on the safety news. So, you know, if we find out anything, we'll figure that out and get it to you guys promptly. It won't help if you have a loser quarterback. Then, of course, you know, east side, that's fine. But I'm going to say it's a two-way, it's a double-edged sword, my friend. So just remember this. Will Levis may be going through his sophomore season as well. But remember, C.J. Stroud's just right behind him going through his own sophomore season. So expectations are high. And you don't want to be on the other side when the sophomore slump hits. So stay humble, my friend. So, Tyler, as we get going in our next segment, schedule dropped. A lot of questions, some good things, some not so good things, but hey, that's why we get here and talk with our friends on the show to just get all the inside out and just vent a little bit about what we liked, what we hated. But hey, we found 5 games that we feel are going to be pretty interesting to talk about. So let's get everybody into Titans talk and break them down. So, of course, the schedule release for 2024 came out last week. And, of course, as Titans fans, we had one primetime game. So I guess that's something to start with. But I get it. You know, your Cowboys and your 49ers and your Jets, they're going to take all the primetime slots. And understandable. I'm not debating that. I'm not here to debate that at all. However, though, Titans do have a pretty solid schedule going forward, and we found 5 games that are pretty intriguing and have some pretty heavy storylines. I mean, maybe especially if this team comes out and performs early in the season. So, Tyler, before we get this thing going, your thoughts on the schedule release last week?
Yeah, my thoughts on the schedule release. I'll tell you, at first, I saw the early bye week, and I really hated the early bye week. But I found some positive in that, and also looking at the schedule, knowing that in the last 7 weeks we have to play 5 AFC South divisional games. You know, that makes for a tough way to close out the season. But, you know, there are some positives to it as well, and I'm excited to see how it pans out.
Now, I'll let everybody know before we get this bad boy rolling, we kept out divisional games because I do think there's intrigue with the division games, and I think the NFL has done a fantastic job at setting this up to where divisional rivals start playing the last few games of the year. I think that's going to pay off. You want to get intrigued those last few weeks, especially with college football rolling around. Mm-hmm. So why not get the games that are going to matter the most and basically build the playoff picture for a lot of these NFL teams? So kudos for the NFL. Mwah. Beautiful idea. Hopefully it pays off. You want it to pay off because there's intrigue, especially in the last few weeks. And if you have nothing but divisional games, yes, that's going to keep interest. So for that reason, we set those divisional games out of this list. We picked the 5 best that are going to basically kind of build later narratives in order to get to that final finishing point. So, Tyler, let's start it out with number 5. And I think this is a pretty basically an easy one. So I think you're not going to see Aaron Rodgers play it much more. You know, maybe he's got another year left in him. I don't know. But we'll see if he can get through this year. But I do think the home opener against the Jets, solid matchup, even if it's a 1 p.m. kickoff game.
It is a solid matchup. Like you said, Aaron Rodgers, he may have this year left. He may still play next year. You know, who knows? But his time is coming to an end. And honestly, like you said, the home opener, I feel like this is a good matchup. But another question is, will Rodgers even make it past their week 1 game, but against the 49ers? But then you also have, this was one of the first positives to me to the Titans schedule. You're going to have Rodgers and the Jets coming off of a short week because they play on Monday Night Football. They have to travel out to San Francisco for that game. So then they got to travel back, and then they'll be coming down to Nashville. So to me, you know, seems like a good home opener matchup for the Titans.
And I mean, don't get it twisted. This is definitely going to be a challenge right there. I mean,
yeah,
the offense is definitely going to have their handful with that defense led by, you know, the phenom Sauce Gardner, who's basically going to give Will Levis a lot of trouble if he doesn't get this thing figured out. So, what's another matchup that you like in this game, Tyler?
Another matchup that I like in this game is, you mentioned the Titans quarterback Will Levis versus the Jets cornerback in Sauce Gardner. The matchup I'm looking at is Garrett Wilson going against L'Jarius Sneed.
Oh, I like that.
Those two facing off against each other. The Titans' number one corner, the Jets' number one receiver, a guy that Rodgers is going to want to get involved into the game because of his playmaking ability. And, the Titans going out and getting L'Jarius Sneed, they did that for a reason. They want to shut down teams' number ones. So that's going to be a nice matchup.
Yeah, I think this right here, you want to get your team just a little acclimated to this season. You're going against a grizzled veteran that's been there, 3-time MVP. Aaron Rodgers, if he's healthy, is a problem. And, I feel, historically, they kind of get a little bumpy sometimes. But the thing with Aaron Rodgers is he always figures it out.
Mm-hmm.
As the season progresses, he always figures it out. He gets in his rhythm. And if the Jets can get that, I'm just seriously worried about the Jets if Rodgers gets into his zone. So, great test there. I feel the Titans. It's a great narrative there. Young second-year quarterback, seasoned veteran quarterback, 3-time MVP. Great story narrative. So, plus, depending on how the Bears game go with the Titans, it really sets up, a bigger picture going forward. So I like this game. For me, it's the 5th best. And of course, you say, well, that's pretty crazy. You're going to go 5th if it's an Aaron Rodgers matchup. Well, you got to look at the other matchups in place. So let's hit number 4. And I really think the Miami game, to me, it's going to be really a lot more locked in for the Miami Dolphins. Now, I know some people will look at me like, Mike, what are you doing? This is the only primetime game we've got, and you've got it at 4. Now, hear me out. It's going to be in week 4, first off. So it's going to be a little bit cooler. It's not going to be terrible. They're not playing in the day, so, no worries. I do think, however, Miami's going to be very more locked in. Last year, it was December. Miami's kind of got their own things going on. I think the pressure got a little bit to them, and they kind of just got caught napping. And that's not to say the Titans didn't go out and handle business. They went out and handled business when they needed to last year. The focus, however, is going to be much more locked in with Miami. And not to mention, Tyler, they've got Odell Beckham now.
Yeah.
So add him to an already talented wide receiver core.
Yeah, and like you said, this is one of those things where I feel like Miami's going to be even more locked in because you look back at last year, after the Titans come back and beat Miami in that primetime game, at the time, Miami was in position where, they could be winning the AFC East, playoff position, all of that was looking good for them. And then the Titans beat them, and things kind of fell apart after that. It really, it can embarrass a team. So even though this is early in the season, more than likely you're going to catch Miami when they're completely healthy, because that was another thing. Tyreek Hill got hurt in that game, couldn't go as much. They're going to be looking at this game, and they're going to be like, the Titans really cost us last year. Losing that game to them, getting embarrassed on prime time by letting them come back. So I feel like that's going to add to their focus and intensity for this game. And like you said, yes, it's the Titans' only primetime game. People are wondering why we put it at 4. And you mentioned it. It's in week 4. Like, it's early in the season. It's not like there's, at the time, a lot on the line at this game. There could be later on in the season, but
yeah, I mean, Boss Man brings up a good point here. And I'm not saying Odell Beckham's going to go out and play like his 2015 self. I'm far from saying that. You just need him to go out there and just make a few catches and run some routes and get distraction. You know, Tyreek's your guy. Jalen Waddle's going to be your guy, especially just if you want to move him around in the slant. I'm just saying having Odell Beckham as just a diversion, especially for a secondary that's going to have to try and just do whatever they can to try and move around and keep these wide receivers from making any kind of major impact. You know, it helps to have guys that can counter with what you're bringing to the table. So that being said, what's your matchup that you like here, Tyler? One-on-one.
One-on-one. I'm going to go with, I know I just went with a wide receiver and cornerback battle, but I'm going to go with another one and say, I see where Boss Man says a good one as well, but, you know, since I picked Snead for the game against the Jets.
Yeah, I can't let you have Snead on all of them.
No, I'm not. I'm going with Jalen Ramsey against either Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, whichever guy he's going to be matched up against. I'm interested in that matchup. You know, Jalen Ramsey, still feel like he's one of the top corners in the game. We're going to need to see how our receivers fare against him.
Okay. Do you think Bradley Chubb might be ready for this game?
Let's see. That was what, a December game when he got hurt. I think he'll probably be ready by this game.
So I know he's still going to be trying to get himself back to 100%, but still, if he can go out and even just play about at half at what he does, he's still a guy that's going to draw a lot of, you know, double teams, and he's going to be that dude that's going to be a problem if you let him be. I would like to see him match up against J.C. Latham. I want to see him get tested in the trenches. As I said, he's not probably going to be 100%, but like I said, at times Chubb can be a problem even when he's like at 75%.
Yeah.
Going against a young rookie tackle who's basically getting baptized into the world of blocking.
Yeah.
So that would be a solid matchup to me. But this is a solid game right here. Of course, Miami's going to have to take this one a little bit more serious. The Titans, it's going to be interesting to see how we go into week 4. Will they have won a couple games under their belt, got a little confidence going, or are they potentially going to be going in winless? That's another question we could ask as well. However, though, I do feel like it's one of those games that the Titans are going to have to be very, very careful around, especially you don't want to go into a bye week with a major problem or a major injury that's going to like derail everything that you're doing.
Right.
Moving on forward to number 3, and this was where things get tricky. I could have put Detroit at 1. I really think Detroit is the best team in the NFC that's not San Francisco. San Francisco or Detroit could easily go to the Super Bowl this year. I'm that confident in those two teams. I just feel like I don't know what it is, Tyler. The Titans are infamous about beating teams they're not supposed to beat. But they're also infamous about losing to teams that they're supposed to beat.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about the Detroit game. I just have this inkling. This could be one of those major upsets.
this could be, and I know it's different head coaches. Last year it was Mike Vrabel. This year, first year head coach Brian Callahan. But playing off what you said there, I mean, this could potentially be like last year's Miami game.
Couldn't it?
where, yeah, where no one is giving the Titans a shot.
Detroit should be hands down like a 14 or 17 point favorite here.
Detroit's offense, they can move the ball, they can score, like they can put up points in a hurry. Last year, one of their struggles was, hey, our offense can put up points, but our defense can't necessarily stop the other team from putting up points. So we have to outscore them. Now, I know, they've tried to work on their defense, but this is going to be a different Titans offense, a more modern Titans offense that could potentially be clicking by week 8. So I could see this being one where Detroit is the heavy favorite and the Titans sneak one on them.
And Bossman brings up another point. I don't see why people overrating Detroit. They had a Cinderella season. That's the thing, Bossman. The Titans are basically playing a team in Detroit that is a mirror picture of what they were a few years ago. They've got a journeyman quarterback with experience and is a fit like a glove for their offense. They have a solid running game. They've got a superstar wide receiver that they signed. They've got a defense right now that is clicking on all 4 cylinders. This Detroit team is basically Tennessee, what they were a few years ago. I genuinely see this team getting to the Super Bowl this year. Only the 49ers and Detroit, in my opinion, are the 2 top teams in the NFC. Everybody else is kind of looking up. Maybe Green Bay's close, but I don't know what Jordan Love's going to do this upcoming season. I'm not as confident as Jordan Love is as I am with what Jared Goff has done with his Detroit team. But I just feel this game itself, it's just ripe with just parity, and it's ripe with upset alert.
And, just one thing to throw out there, because you mentioned how this Detroit team is like the Titans from a couple of years ago. Just one thing to keep in mind, because Detroit just went and paid the man that you have in the picture right there, Jared Goff. Titans went and paid their journeyman that they went and traded for after, a little bit of magic. And it worked out for like one season after that. But the next couple, weren't really that great. So we'll see how it pans out for Detroit. And, I see where Bossman's saying they're not better than Philly. They weren't supposed to get past the Rams. And look, you can throw out things like they weren't supposed to get past this one, they weren't supposed to get past, but they did. And had Dan Campbell not gambled too much, they probably get past the 49ers last year. I mean, it's simple as that. It didn't happen. He gambled. It didn't pay off. But Detroit has a good team. You have the Vikings. They're going to have a rookie quarterback. You have the Bears. They look good on paper, but how good will Caleb Williams actually be? And you talk about a little bit of magic. Jordan Love at times looked rough last year, but then at the end of the season, things started clicking for him. Almost like a little bit of magic happened for the Packers and their little playoff run that they had.
And I'll take it a step further. I'm not saying Philadelphia's a bad team.
No.
I don't buy them. I don't buy Nick Sirianni right now.
And
I think he's lost the locker room, and I think they're trying to get it back.
And another important piece to Philly, because this is an important piece, it cannot be overlooked. Jason Kelce is no longer at the center of that offensive line. They have to replace him. And while you may look at center and kind of turn a blind eye to it like, oh, they'll be fine, he made a lot of what they did work as far as making sure, protections and everything were there. Even the tush push. He had, what he was able to do at the center of that offensive line made that even more successful as well. So when you're talking about an offensive line losing an important piece like that, it's something to look at.
And take this into consideration as well. They had to replace not only their defensive coordinator, but their offensive coordinator. So now you've got Kellen Moore taking over the offense. You've got Vic Fangio taking over this defense. I'm going to put it to you this way, boss man. If the Eagles lose the division to the Cowboys this year, Nick Sirianni's getting fired. There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah. Philly ain't going to wait around.
Philly has better talent than what Dallas has. But if Dallas beats them and wins the division, Nick Sirianni's not going to have a job. So, I mean, you bring up your list right there. I'm sorry. I'll put the 49ers above Detroit. Philly, I'm not going to put them above Detroit. I'm definitely not putting the Cowboys above Detroit. The Rams, what do they got? What do the Rams have other than Puka Nacua and Matthew Stafford if he can stay healthy? They don't even have Aaron Donald anymore. So, I mean, you're entitled to your opinion, boss man. That's why we have the show. We want you guys to have your opinion and, of course, come to these discussions. I'm just telling you just straight up from my opinion and just from what I've seen and all these moves and the basic principle in the NFL, if you got to go out and replace both your offense and defensive coordinators after you lost the locker room as the head coach, after you go on and give that whole spiel in Kansas City and that just backfired at you, you're under the microscope, my friend, badly. But I'll tell you what else is under the microscope. This game, this could be on upset alert, and I think this is where you put it at 3. So regardless, there's intrigue there. So getting to the top 2, once again, another one that could have been number 1, but Tyler, I got to push it back because Buffalo's got a lot of questions.
Yeah.
But it's still an intriguing game. It's still Josh Allen. And I think this is a major hurdle and a major obstacle for the Titans to see where they are as a team.
Yeah. Like you said, Buffalo, they've lost a lot of pieces. Lost their wide receiver 1 and 2. They did go get Curtis Samuel, drafted Coleman. They lost their center. They lost several defensive pieces, both their safeties. Tre'Davious White. This is a team, they've lost pieces all around. And it feels like it's a team where they're going to have to rely on Josh Allen even more to really make sure their offense is going. So, this one, but then again, it's Josh Allen and the Bills. There's excitement there. There's a tough matchup there. And the last time these teams played in Buffalo, it wasn't that pretty.
No, I mean, really, it was just a night and day comparison. But, this is a different type of Buffalo team. It's been kind of stripped down to not the studs, but I mean, they basically had to rip up some walls and just kind of just redo a few things and restructure some contracts. But of course, they go out and get some fresh, new, young talent for Josh Allen to grow with. My biggest question is, and I think this is something that the Titans are going to have to discuss and try and see if this is going to be a major problem going forward. Can the run defense stop the run attack? And I mean, Buffalo's got some pretty good options at running back.
Yeah. I mean, James Cook he really started emerging more last year. So, and not to mention, you throw in Josh Allen's rushing ability, like they are a tough run team to stop.
Think of it this way. Ray Davis, who you brought in, what if he gets to split some of those carries? I feel that's another discussing point right there. The Titans' rush defense, I think, is going to have to try and find a way to counter that, because I think Buffalo's going to get more, rush involved, because they got to take some kind of pressure off Josh Allen.
Yeah. That's a good point. And I see where MB brings up a good point as well.
Yeah, I mean, that is a good point, MB. I mean, I think especially going forward, I think the Titans kind of have the edge right there, with Jeffrey Simmons, and I'd even throw Harold Landry in the mix. But, all in all, you got guys that you're trying to fill in spots. You're trying to basically just get this thing to work. But regardless, I think it's a good test, especially this point in the year, because we're going to figure out what teams are going to start becoming, who they really are. The real NFL season for most teams starts about between week 6 and week 8, because teams are starting to get a little nervous, or they're starting to get a little more comfortable. So where are the Titans going to fit into this narrative? But that being said, Tyler, what's your matchup for this game?
My matchup for this game is going to be Cedric Gray and Josh Allen, because I feel like, we talked about the rushing attack for the Bills. I mentioned how, you look at the Bills over the last couple of years, Josh Allen, I mean, a major key component in their offense, obviously with his arm, but also with his legs. He's a guy that can escape the pocket, extend plays, hurt you downfield with his legs. So this is a game where we need Cedric Gray to really be at his best, and making sure guys are in the right position to clog up holes. If Josh Allen starts to escape the pocket, going and getting him down, keeping him from making just a huge difference in the game. So that's going to be my matchup.
I like it. Give the young linebackers some reps, see what he does with it. Mm-hmm. But, Josh Allen's in a whole new world. The Bills are going to be an interesting team to watch. And, I mean, they should be favored to win the division, but right now in the AFC East, there's a lot of question marks. And, I mean, this thing could be wide open still by week 7. So, Tyler, which gets us to number 1. And there were some good matchups that I could thumb through and have some solid picks, but I went with the basic principle, the student versus the teacher. And I think for the second year in a row, I've made this selection. Give me week 15, Cincinnati. I don't know what Joe Burrow is going to be doing in week 15, if Cincinnati's going to be having playoff hopes and aspirations still high. But I do know this. This is kind of a measuring stick game. You want to go into where you've used to work and you've had these great relationships with the players that you've been with. and see how far you've come. If ever there was a situation and a great story narrative, I think this is one of them.
It is. I mean, like you said, and we've talked about, our top 5 games, like just me and you back and forth, and both of us, talked about this Bengals matchup because, I mean, you have Brian Callahan facing off for the first time against the team that he used to be the offensive coordinator for the last 5 years. And the matchup gets to happen in Brian Callahan's new home down here in Tennessee. They have to come to his home, and he sees how he measures up against them. And, not to mention another thing, you have Cheeto going against his former team in the Bengals. So, narratives like that all around.
Yeah, it's selling points and homecomings for some of these guys, in terms of them just meeting up with a team that formerly employed them. I do feel, however, the Bengals did a really good job on the draft this year, going out, finding young offensive linemen to put around Joe Burrow. Hopefully he's kept protected because Joe Burrow is very much still in tier 2 when it comes to NFL franchise quarterbacks. Tier 1's Patrick Mahomes. It's not even debatable at this point.
Yep.
Tier 2, you've got Burrow. I would put, Lamar Jackson, and I would probably put
I think Josh Allen sneaks in there.
Yeah, I'd put Josh Allen there. I was debating it. I was like, can I put Josh Allen there? Should I put him in there this year? I think that's a better question to ask.
Yeah, and, and Bossman brings up another good point, Boyd as well, facing off against the Bengals. But, yeah, I mean, Josh Allen has to sneak into that tier 2. Like, up until we see if there's actually going to be a difference this year after, him being a veteran now, he still sneaks in there.
And this is such a measuring stick game for both teams. I think down this point, week 15, this is before the stretch of divisional games for the Titans and, of course, the Bengals. So a lot could be on the line. Maybe a playoff position still in play. Maybe they're trying to fight to try and not fall at a higher draft pick. I don't know. But to me, it's just intrigue. This basically sets up what the Titans are going to do on their stretch of divisional games. And I think it's a major measuring stick kind of game. So, Tyler, give me your take on who is the best matchup in this game.
Oh, man. Best matchup in this game. I've got 2 that I kind of want to go with. But I'm going to go with, man, I keep bouncing around. I'm going to do guys that aren't actually out on the field playing, but Zach Taylor against Brian Callahan. The student versus the teacher, a matchup of wits and game planning, and who's going to come out on top.
I mean, I'm fine with that. I mean, MB brings up a good one with Snead and Chase. I'm definitely looking forward to that one. I would have to say, Henderson and J.C. Latham would be a good matchup there.
Yep.
I'd say,
Cheeto and Higgins.
Cheeto and Higgins would definitely be a good matchup. If Higgins signs his extension, which that doesn't seem like it's going to happen right now anyway. But I think for both teams, it's a major measuring stick game. And not to mention, Cincinnati has just been a pain in the ass for the Titans for the last 3 to 4 years. Let's be honest. I'm happy we beat them last year, but I would have liked it if Joe Burrow was more healthy. It didn't take away from anything, but at the same time, it's like, man, I would have just loved to have him at his best.
Yeah.
Not complaining about the win. I'm just saying.
Well, you always want to beat people, at their best. And look, it's no secret. You can go back and watch that game again, and you can tell that Joe Burrow was not at his best. The Titans knew Joe Burrow was not at his best because they gave him some things, especially where he usually extends some plays with his legs and will take off. They gave him that. They weren't scared of that. And he didn't take it. So, again, not taking anything away from the win, but you can also admit when things, kind of work out in your favor.
All I have to do is say Cincinnati and Kent Woods is going to appear. I knew you were coming soon, Kent Woods. That's why I was ready for you. But, who day got a who day, I guess. Enjoy your Skyline chili.
Oh.
I'm not knocking it. It's good. But, I mean, it's like, you shouldn't have to bury something with that much cheese. Like I said, I'm not knocking it. I think it's fine. It's just, if something that's supposed to be that hearty, I shouldn't have to have like an artery clogging amount of cheese on it. But I guess that's just the diet in me talking. What do I know? I've only lost 95 pounds.
There you go.
But congratulations to you, Tyler. You're already on your little journey right now, and you've already cut out 5. So everybody in this show's just losing weight here. So good for everybody. Health's the real winner today, kids.
That's right.
But I'd punch the Pope in the face for a cheeseburger. I'm not even playing about that. Boss Man says Titans receivers should eat against the Cincinnati secondary. I mean, they should. Jerry Self, Mahomes is the most overrated quarterback of all time and the luckiest. That doesn't stop him from having his rings, though, man. Luck or whatever. He got him. But, guys, we're going to call the show tonight. We will foreclose the final segment because, well, I got to go to bed because I got work tomorrow. And I'm pretty sure Tyler's exhausted because he's been up all night dealing with a plumbing issue, non-Super Mario related. But we'll just keep that in our back pocket for another day. But shout out to you guys for coming and joining us tonight. We're glad things worked. The show worked. We're airing. So everything worked out tonight. So especially you guys, round of applause for you showing up and your support. And, of course, before we get out of here, don't forget, guys, if you love the show, help it grow, follow us on all our social media platforms at the Titan Upload Network. We're going to continue to put out great content for you guys because you deserve it, and you deserve nothing but the best and our best because that's what we will continue to do for you guys. And don't forget, Rossi will be on sometime this week, and I'm pretty sure Upload's got something planned too. So make sure you jump in the Titan Upload Network and continue to watch all these great shows. And of course, the Lost Ring series will be coming soon, guys. We haven't set a date yet. Tyler and I are still trying to hammer that out, but I promise you, we're putting in a lot of work for that, and it is going to be exciting. So don't forget to check that out. And for any of you guys that want to listen to anything podcast related, check out the BS Report. New episode out now. Tyler and I talk everything NFL football, uncut and uncensored. It's not affiliated with the Titan Upload Network. It's our own baby. It's a mean, nasty baby, but it's still our baby. But check that out as well. And we could use your support there as well, because we're going to continue to put in some NFL talk there. But of course, the Titan Upload Network is the most important thing here. Without you and your support, we wouldn't be able to make it what it is today. So guys, that'll do it for us. We will be back next Monday with another great story and potentially some stuff from the OTAs. So maybe that'll be pretty intriguing how this kind of unfolds, because there's some pretty cool storylines kind of floating around. So we'll keep our ear to the wall and see what goes on. But guys, have a phenomenal night tonight. Thank you for joining us. And for Tyler Staggs and myself, Michael Bishop, thank you for watching the Power Hour. And as always, take care and tighten up.
Tighten up.
You're watching the Titan Upload Network.